Welcome to the Hot Flash Pod. We're laughing while our bodies play. I'd pull up a chair, you're one of us. Talking through the chaos, calling out the...
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Hot Flash Pod. And the good news is I'm here with my friends, Melissa and Lisa, ready to start another interesting episode of our podcast here. For those of you who've been here before, you've heard us talk about this, but we're the unfiltered space for women navigating the heat of midlife. We're here to laugh, commiserate, and keep it real about the sandwich generation, the perimenopause, and everything in between. And for this particular episode, we'll be looking at grief, specifically the future that was stolen, grief, menopause, and the loss of what if. So we get a chance to tell our funny stories, our flash and tell, which are usually divvied up and we take turns every episode. But today we had so many great stories that we've decided to each tell a story in our flash and tell this week. And then we'll get into the deep dive and talking deeply about our topic for this week's episode and podcast topic. So without further ado, I think I started with you, Melissa.
Me, jump it in.
You're on. Tell us.
The answer, my teacher knew about it because I was like, yeah. Anyway, so I may be 44 years old, but my mommy still sends me gifts. Okay. But you know what? That's her love language. And that's what she likes to do. So, she's off living her best life in Puerto Rico and she likes to send me care packages. This one had a bunch of stuff in it, that she had kind of collected over time. And one of them was a beautiful pen that says, being awesome since 1981. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to rock that all the time. But there were some other things inside this little care package that I was just really not sure about. And this was one of them. And if you're not watching the video, this is a string of turquoise beads.
They're very pretty.
They're very pretty. And turquoise is my signature color. So I know why she brought it to me. But I, for the life of me, thought that my mom was sending me butt beads. I couldn't figure out what this was. And I was like, no, Mommy, that is not cool. And in my defense, she also sent me one of those massagers that they use for other things. So it's totally plausible that that could have been what this was. But
I have so many questions.
It is the charger for my iPhone, but it's a decorative one. And so it's super pretty and all this fun stuff. And now I totally am, not weirded out by it. But, there were all kinds of things that it could have been that I didn't realize what it was. So that was my funny thing for this week.
Well, I had a guess. Lisa, what was your guess?
I thought it was a decorative bead that you would get at Kirkland's to put on your table. I saw a glimpse of white and I thought maybe those were tassels at the end. I was thinking it was a home decorative item. That was my guess.
And the old lady with me with glasses thought it was this nice, beaded, don't lose your glasses decorative hook.
Those are big. If that's what it was, those are big ones.
I'm not a total perv. I first thought, well, maybe these are prayer beads, but we're not Catholic. So
I could see that. A rosary. She's in Puerto Rico, Catholic influence. Yes.
It wasn't that far-fetched.
I'm not trying to be colonizers here. So yeah, it was a fun time opening up that.
That's fun. That's sweet that your mom does that too.
Yes. Well, I'm going to dive in with mine. And mine had to do with, I had a procedure. It's hidden behind here. I'm okay. It's something very benign, nothing, just had a patch here. And so I took a picture and of course with my face and I sent it to our chat. And I thought for sure I was going to get in return, you look great. Because I texted with a question, what happened to my face? And referring to how I looked. And I thought maybe I get, girl, you look good. And I got from Lisa, gravity. That's what happened to your face. Gravity.
Keeping it real. Keeping it real
returned.
since 1977. That's what my button says.
But I appreciate the return images that I got, which was shared experiences that we're having here, right? That we share in the gravities.
I was just so grateful that I actually had my phone on Do Not Disturb because I was in a deep focus. So I didn't put my foot in my mouth like Lisa did.
I mean, seriously.
That's what friends do. I love it. Now you,
I'm
Lisa.
honest to a fault. I'm honest to a fault. Well, I know you ladies are headed to a show in a couple of weeks. You're gonna spend some quality time together socially. It'll be a good time. And I just wanted to share an experience that I had recently from a mom's night out that I went on. And just wanna, encourage you both to be careful. Because this was at a comedy show that I went to, a comedian that I love, Michelle Buteau, who is hilarious. She's female empowerment, liberal, all the things. And her show is great, by the way, if you have a chance to see it. So funny. I laughed so much my face hurt. But anyway, before the show started, I was sitting there with my girlfriends, and another group of moms of similar age arrived to the theater, and they are having a good time. We'll just leave it at that. They are having a good time to the point where they can't find their seats. They're climbing over the seats, like from row to row. One woman had on a very high cut slit dress, and I'm not sure she had underwear on. I mean, it was
Really can't.
wild. It was wild. And there were some older ladies next to me, and they were like, "What is happening? Do we need to move?" And I'm like, "No, we're good. They're going to get it figured out." So then all of a sudden, this older gentleman, security guard, comes down, and he's got his readers on, and he's looking over his nose. He's giving the look like, he's watching. Arms are crossed. He's ready to jump into action. Well, he did jump into action, and those three ladies got kicked out of the show for having too much fun. They
Wow.
were,
Good for
yeah,
them.
I know. I felt bad.
That might
And
be
they
a
were traveling from out of town. They came from Indianapolis,
Oh,
and they were out of towners. They were
oops.
making a weekend of it, and
they sure did.
yeah, they're gonna have stories to tell.
What happens
Stories
in
to tell.
Cabo stays in Cabo.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll be guests on this show. Who knows? Right?
Who knows? Who
Well,
knows?
love these stories. Get a
Mhm.
good laugh. All funny things that are happening to us on a regular basis. So this gives us a chance to now transition into our deep dive a little bit. But as always, we give our disclaimer that we're here to be funny and share experiences, but in no way are we medical professionals. So anything we say are from our just lived experiences, and you're welcome to take what you want and leave the rest, or leave it all for that matter. But we're here to share and commiserate as we shared before. And for this particular topic, we're going to be tackling the double grief of closing the doors, realizing the future that you may have had envisioned, whether it's with aging with a partner or traveling or retiring or something, might have been impacted based on life decisions, whether it's a loss of a person, maybe physical changes, since we're talking about aging and perimenopause and how these things are intertwined. So we're grateful to Melissa, who is going to take us on this deep dive and share some of her personal experiences in this journey and how they are ever so complicated in the context of what we talk about in every episode. So, Melissa, I'm going to turn it to you and appreciate you taking the time to share with us.
Thank you, ladies. Happy to share. Happy to share. It's definitely not the club you want to be in, but since I'm here, I will, make sure to represent well, I guess. Um, Lisa was talking at one of the last episodes about this perimenopause thing kind of being her identity now. And I very much resonated with that whatever the thing is that we're going through seems to be what the lens that everybody sees us, or maybe we see the world through. This was a very complicated time for me. I would say that I started my perimenopause journey at around 40. And that's because, I have ADHD, and the studies are showing that people who have ADHD go into perimenopause, like they go into perimenopause, can go into perimenopause earlier. And a lot of it is that the coping mechanisms that you have with with n- come they don't work anymore. So there was a lot to decipher, of like, what is going on with me? Is it ADHD? Is it perimenopause? Is it grief? Right. And so my grief came from um, about in November of 2022. My husband was mowing the lawn in our backyard. Both of us. home. Obviously, it's November in Florida, so it was really kind of the first sunny day that was kind of cool and crisp, felt very fall-like. And so, we had a fundraiser gala to go to that night, and so, he's also got ADHD, so he's trying to pack in all the things, do it all before we go and have a really fun night. It was some casino night or something like that. And I had a fabulous dress I was gonna wear. And, and I walked I was on the potty, and when I came out of the potty, I saw Michael, laying down in the backyard with our dog sitting right next to sitting right next to him, and he's just, looking up at the sky, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is a beautiful moment that he's enjoying the outdoors with our dog," and so, like, I pick up my phone to, like, take a photo, and then I can see that there's some discoloration on his face and he's not really moving. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, and so I run out into the backyard. Thankfully I had my phone with me because, um, and, and he's unresponsive. He has my presumption is that he had a heart attack. He had some heart issues that, we can go in at a later time. So it wasn't surprising. It was something that we were monitoring. But this particular heart attack was not related to that. And so I called 911 and they're walking me through doing CPR. The neighbor in the backyard hears me, doing all of the things and comes running in and she's like, "How can I help?" And I said, "Go out to the the front so that you can tell the fire department when they get here where we're at. We're in the backyard. You don't have to go through the house, all that good stuff." And so they finally came in, and so I immediately pick up and take over, caring for him. And let me just tell you, you have it in your mind of how first responders are going to come into a situation like this. You see all of these shows where there is this sense of urgency. That is not how it happens. They are very calm, cool, and collected, and they are taking an assessment of what's going on, and then they all, in a coordinated way, take action. In my wiser self now, I understand that that's what was going on, but did I want them to hustle a little bit? Absolutely, and that was a thing that kinda pissed me off a little bit, but just so people out there know that when people come to your house, when emergency services comes to your house, it's not always an emergency. And so then I, let them take over, and I called his parents because his parents live right around the corner from us, like, in the same neighborhood, right? And I call his dad. His dad doesn't answer the phone. And so then I called, his mom. Thankfully, his mom picked up, and I said, "You need to get to my house. You need to get to our house right now. Michael's had a heart attack, and he's not doing well. They're working on him." And, you need to say that over the phone, especially to somebody's mom, right? Because they tell you all the, "Oh, people can get in accidents when they're, trying to get to you." And but, it is what it is. If I needed her to be there because this was an important moment in life, right? And, to this day, I have these flashbacks of, like, hearing Michael's dad, saying, "Fight, son, fight," like, just trying to encourage him verbally to fight, and it was so sad because I knew that he was already gone because by the time I got to him, I could tell that, that we weren't gonna make it through this. But, for better or worse, the emergency crew said, "We're gonna go ahead and pack him up and take him to the hospital and see if there's anything they can do for him there." And they didn't tell us that, they gave us a false sense of hope actually. But I'm getting off on a tangent. But that is the story. That is what happened. And so in a matter of an afternoon, you go from we're going to have a wonderful evening together at a casino where we're raising money for a children's charity to we're calling all of his friends and family to say that there's been this emergency and that Michael's dead. And he was 47 years old. So it was not something that people thought that they were going to hear. And so like I said, deciphering all of where the symptoms were coming from and all of that has just been an interesting path to go through the last 4 years now.
And complicated. I think, when we themed out this episode, I think in what we talk about probably in every episode is not just the chasing of the symptom, but the figuring out of who we are,
Mm,
and being able to define it for ourselves. And so that, I I have no point of reference. I think that we could collectively say that we've had loss in our life in some fashion or form. And it looks different for each person. But then, you know, when you're in constant transformation at any given point in your life, some things you could anticipate, and then these things you can't anticipate. And then even when you can anticipate it, you didn't anticipate it was going to be like that, right? So
Right.
I think that those things compound each other
Mm.
in ways that we've talked about ongoing. And I'm very sorry for your loss, you
No,
know.
thank you. Thank you.
And
Yes.
thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Well, the listeners don't know this, but when we're filming this, yesterday was his birthday. And so, um, I don't know if this will happen forever. I will certainly do it for as long as I am able. His parents and sister and I meet up at his local brewery, and we invite whatever friends are still around that have the time and are able to come and have a drink and catch up and raise a toast for Michael. So I think that it's important that we're saying his name and talking about him and sharing the experience because it's sad, but it's true. Like you were saying, Suzanne, that like a lot of times you are talking about perimenopause and menopause, and then you just find other people. It's definitely happened with me with this, the widowhood and all of that. It's like,
Yeah.
man, you don't realize how many people are actually being widowed in and around your sphere of influence, and what that's like, especially with it being on the younger side. I can't imagine what it's like when people also have children and this happens to them. I mean, it's such a stressful situation.
Well, I think when you find the courage to be truthful and open and honest about the things that happen to you. You know, a lot of times a preservation mode is to pretend. Denial is a very strong emotion, or to hide and not feel like you can share it. But when you do, one, it is a huge lift off your heart. But two, like you said, you meet people who are experiencing other things that are similar. And, I think there's comfort in that. It allows people to come together. And then there's new things that happen, right? From new relationships and new experiences. So I think our viewers are probably, many of them are resonating with this. So thank you for your honesty and your transparency, Melissa.
Thank you. The thing that I'm thinking about right now is just the no longer like the emergence of like who you are, right? And no longer caring about
Mhm.
what the world thinks. I think it was exacerbated because, yeah, you're in this, you know who you are as a person and all of the things going through this, adult adolescence or whatever, and just really coming into your own. That's it's a trope at this point, right? That middle to late age women just don't no longer cater to what society thinks that they should do. And let me just tell you that it's unfortunate, but there was a lot of that with me, right? Like the things that I cared about, the people that I cared about, um, just rug out from underneath. And I know that that compounds everybody's experience, um, but
It makes
like you there
oh,
are there's life on the other side of it, and you do have new experiences, and they're not the same, but they're wonderful in their own right.
well, it makes me think, I think a little bit, Lisa, of what you were talking about before when you didn't want to be defined by others. And then here you are changing, right? So it's a
Mhm.
forced change. And similar to going through perimenopause, it's a forced
Yeah.
change. You don't get to pick to be in it or out of it
Mm.
necessarily. And so
It's out
then
of your control. It's
it's out of your
happening.
control. And then you want to change or you have to change, right? But that means people around you have to change. I heard once from somebody is that when you, whatever reason, whether you go through therapy or, your own physical change, something, people around you need time to change themselves. So if you change, people don't necessarily change with you or the people around you. You need to give them time to catch up. And
Mhm.
so I imagine that some of that happens with our partners, our family, our friends, is that when you change, they're so used to this other version of you that you
Mm,
aren't that person anymore. Then that means they have to change because, well, you're different.
Yeah.
So it's change for everyone.
Yeah.
you go through this process.
And I wonder if that's where the idea of, oh, I want to blow up my life comes from. Because
Mm.
from everybody else on the
Mm.
outside, it looks like you've just become this complete other person. You're distressed, like you just, but really, are you just no longer masking or placating
Yeah.
or,
Mm.
just
Yeah. Or I
just,
think you also kind of have that and call it a midlife crisis, but you have that moment where you decide this doesn't make me happy anymore. And
Mm.
so I'm not doing it anymore. Life is short, as you have eloquently shared with us, Melissa. Like things happen. And right, if you're not living it the way you want to live it, I think we all kind of have that epiphany almost when we hit a certain moment in our life, that midlife moment, whenever it happens. Um, you know, I changed careers a couple of years ago, and it was because I wasn't happy anymore. And it was interesting because I made that decision for me and for me alone. And the people who I worked with at my previous job were very angry at me. I lost friendships. People who I thought were my friends were really not my friends. People who I thought cared about me really didn't care about me, because when I made a decision for me, they were like, "You can't leave us," and I'm like, "I can't."
And here I am.
And I am, and I did.
that's the
Yes.
complicated of it, that a lot of times our friendships are situational. They're either with people we work
Yes,
with,
yes.
or people who have children the same age as we are,
Mhm.
or who are, in the same industry or sit on boards with us. And so really just the whole structure of the life was disrupted for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
It's powerful. Well, I would imagine that many listeners are really grateful for your story that will I think from a when we originally had talked about this idea, it's not just looking back, but looking forward too,
Sure.
like what future
Sure.
means. And I think that whether through your own experience or anybody else's particular experience, looking forward to our version of ourselves, what that means. So I wouldn't say that I've arrived at anything for myself, no
Mhm.
matter what inputs I've had. I'm still trying to figure out what this next and I've heard that even from my mother who's, in her 80s, is that you're always kind of trying to figure out what the next phase of your life looks like. And I think
Mhm.
that's kind of interesting to think about from, where we are now.
And it's okay for you to be angry about it, right?
Mm,
It is
Mm.
okay to be angry about the fact that you were told to do this in your career and that didn't work out. It's
mm,
okay to be upset that, your body isn't looking the same way that you want it to. And so your currency in our society is different. It's okay to be upset at the fact that, Michael died and in our prime earning years, by the way. And so now everything, like even part of my future self is now in jeopardy. And so, in a time where I may or may not have the energy to get myself out of bed to take my dog on a walk, and thank goodness for Kira, because if it hadn't have been for that dog, I wouldn't have gotten out of the house.
mm,
I now have to like hustle and get all of this. I'm having to make up for lost time because I went from two people to one person again, and it was not a choice. And it's okay to be angry about that. And it's better that you get angry and get loud and get it out, so that you can get over it. And I don't mean over it like, oh, we're just we're that never happened to us and it no longer affects us. What I mean is, and I love my Instagram post. I saw one the other day that said, you know the journey is not so bad if what you value is that journey and not just the
mm.
end of it. And
Ooh,
so
yeah.
finding
Mm.
in
That's
the
good.
things happening in between and understanding that whatever is happening is preparing you for the next thing.
Yes.
Or you're woo woo or
Yes.
not. It is. It's the sum of all your life's experience. And so I've had wonderful experiences. We've had some downers, but ultimately it's preparing me for the greatest next chapter.
I mean, is this where we drop a mic or something? Because I
Just
feel like
saying.
it's
So I did have an uncle that one time, we were talking about birthdays and, I get real weird around birthdays. I'm a Cancer. It's just weird. But, it's like, it's this, I'm at this precipice. I'm about to push over a cliff and there is the great unknown. I'm now going to be 45, right? Or I'm graduating high school or whatever it was. And I was like, tell me, what is it like to age? And he goes, each year is always better than the one before. And
Mm.
that just really stuck with me. And even when the year that Michael died, I was like, do I still believe that? And ultimately, I do. That every year
Mhm.
is a little bit better for in whatever way that you can possibly find it. And so that's just, and I hate that I'm, no, I'm not. I embrace the fact that that's the way that I choose to look at the world. And so hopefully that inspires some of you guys to know that every year life gets a little bit better, even when it doesn't.
This
I
is a
think that's
great,
so true.
it is
That's
so
so
true.
good.
Like, I mean,
Well,
thank you.
Lisa, we're on to you. So I don't know how to segue from that powerful story and anecdotes that I
Oh,
through
yeah.
the house, but
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, but I think
Well,
it's a great time to, we make some connections to the rest of the world, right? In terms of our experiences.
Well, when we started talking about grief in perimenopause a couple of weeks ago, and I think even when we got initial feedback when we started this whole podcast, that was something that some of our early listeners said they'd like to talk about and listen and have us talk about. And so I started doing a little research, and I found this great article written by, let me pull it up here. A woman by the name of Annie Wright, and it is entitled The Grief of Perimenopause. And basically acknowledging from a scientific perspective that the chemicals are in imbalance in our bodies and how those chemicals affect how we feel. And even people who have never had signs of depression or mood swings or irritability all of a sudden are having these feelings. And it's not just the chemical imbalance, but it's also layered with all the things that are happening to us, the societal changes. We're seeing people in our life change and leave. We're becoming empty nesters, or we're having the midlife crisis and we're deciding to change our jobs. We're doing all these things and experiencing all these things that cause emotions, right? Like it causes emotions, and then you throw in the chemical imbalance, and it's really a rocky roller coaster of ups and downs for us. But one of the most interesting takeaways, and I'm resonating with you, Melissa, on this, and even with myself a little bit in previous things in my life that have been, traumatizing, is that estradiol, estradiol. Sorry, it's late in the day. And it is quickly declining in our bodies right now at this time of our lives. And that directly affects the hippocampus in the brain, which is the memory center of the brain. And so things that we thought we've processed often are coming back up. And it makes us sad for no reason. It was interesting. I was at I see massage therapists regularly to help with my bad back because, perimenopause has caused joint pain and all the things happen. So I go to this great massage therapist, and it's the kind of massage that is not relaxing. It's almost painful at times, but yeah, um, myofascial massage. But anyway, so he was working on my shoulder, and he was like, I just want you to know that in this, you hold grief in this spot in your body. And if you feel the urge to cry, he's like, let it out. And sure enough, it wasn't from pain. It was like an emotional release. And I was like, good grief, brother. Like, let it go. Like,
Unintended, right?
I was like, you
Unintended,
are
yeah.
right. You are
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Kind of like they say you carry stress in your hips, like you carry grief in your shoulders, apparently. So,
Well,
I think to give us all some, comfort in knowing that we're not crazy, that's often said, and we often feel that way, but we're not. It's real. There's science behind it. We're learning more about the science behind it. And, I think it's important that we acknowledge that and embrace it and just be okay with it. This too shall pass. It just takes 10 years.
Well, it's like anything, it can feel like, oh my gosh, this is everywhere. We've already kind of talked about that, right?
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. It's a good thing. So the more, like you said, the more we know.
well,
Uh,
you might have hot takes for today. I think my hot take is that it's not a thing, it's people. So that might be my hot
Mhm.
take for today. You're welcome to have your own hot takes if you want to have one for the end of our episode today. But my hot take is people. My hot take is lean into your people. And it is for me in the way that I look at life and these quickly changing phases of our experiences. If I had to map people, I just had this conversation with somebody recently about love and life. People have been the thing that anchors me all the way through up until this point, and I imagine it will be the thing that takes me for the remainder of whatever I have left of this life. So my hot take is lean into your people. That's mine for today. Anybody else have a hot take before we end our episode, other than the wisdom of Melissa's incredible journey and then the insightful release that we all have permission, as you've described, Lisa, in engaging in, and that I think the common thread is we have permission to be ourselves, right? We don't
Yes.
need permission to be ourselves. Let me correct my own
Oh,
language.
I like that. I like
Yeah,
that.
we don't need
Yeah.
permission to be ourselves. So, well, thanks everybody. Thanks for listening to the Hot Flash Pod. If you've laughed and maybe even cried in this episode, but ultimately felt seen today, share this with a friend who needs it. And until next time, stay cool.
Is it me, or is it burning up in here? Who turned up the heat? Laugh, cry, sweat dry, shifting every gear. Oh, the drama. 3 friends riding out this wild left turn. Got a story for every sudden burn. Welcome to the Hot Flash Pod. We're laughing while our bodies play hard. Pull up a chair, you're one of us. Talking through the chaos, calling out the fuss. We'll turn this roller coaster into a nod to every blazing hazy. Is it just me? Day Hot Flash Pod. We're gonna laugh it away. Brain fog, mood jog. What was I just saying? Jeans tight, sleep light, heart still staying. We spill the tea on every twist and turn. If you're sweating in the cereal aisle, it's your turn. Welcome to the Hot Flash Pod. We're laughing while our bodies play hard. Pull up a chair, you're one of us. Talking through the chaos, calling out the fuss. Hot Flash Pod. We'll turn this roller coaster into a nod to every blazing hazy. Is it just me? Day Hot Flash Pod. We're gonna